Well, I was looking like you weren't gonna let me. All right, Mr. Evans, ready? I'd like to call to order our regular city council. Residents, if we can't take a seat, we're going to call the meeting to order.
Do we have any cards on consent?
I'd like to call to order the January 15th regular city. If we can, residents, have a seat so we can get started with our meeting. The time is 8:40 p.m. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mayor Ronnie Felder, Chairperson Douglas Lawson,
Here.
Chair Pro Tem Chadwick McCoy, Councilperson Kashaba Miller Anderson, Councilperson Shirley Lanier,
Here.
Councilperson Glenn Spiritus, City Manager Jonathan Evans, Acting City Clerk Deborah Hall McCullough is present, City Attorney Don Nguyen.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum, you may proceed.
Thank you. If we can have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilwoman Lanier.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any additions, deletions, substitutions to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Evans, go ahead. You recognize.
Staff would like to have item 3G pulled from the agenda, as well as items 6A and 6B. Those items will be pulled and postponed. 6A, 6B,
And 3G?
and 3G.
Thank you. Are there any other items that could be postponed that are on the regular agenda tonight? Mr. Evans?
Chair,
Please recognize.
like 3D to be put onto the regular calendar.
Okay, we're going to do that on consent, but I will take note of that. 3D?
Yes.
All right, when we get to consent, we will do that.
Okay.
Anything else on the regular agenda, Mr. Evans?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any additions? Question from the board, Mr. Evans, everything, all the resolutions you want us to get through tonight? Because I know it's 9 o'clock with regular public comments up next, so is there anything else that we could possibly postpone?
Mr. Chair, it's staff's recommendation that we attempt to proceed forward with the items that are provided for on the agenda. If it's the board's desire to move items or we get close to a certain hour, we can definitely look to make some
Okay.
modifications.
All right. Any additional additions, substitutions? And Dr. Spears, I did notate your consent request.
All right, thank you.
He requested that 3D we will remove from consent when we get to that one to put in the regular agenda. Disclosures? Motion to adopt?
I'll move.
Second.
Motion been made and properly second. Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lanier, Chair Pro Tem McCoy,
Yes.
Councilperson Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Councilperson Spiritus,
Yes.
Chairperson Lawson,
Yes.
unanimous vote.
Thank you. We go straight into public comment. Public comment shall begin at 7:30 unless there's no further business of the city council in the event which it shall begin sooner. In addition, if an item is being considered at 7:30, then comments from the public shall begin immediately after the item's been concluded. Please be reminded, the city council board has adopted rules of decorum governing public comment during official meetings, which is posted at the front desk. In an effort to preserve order, if the rules are not adhered to, the chairperson may have any disruptive speaker or attendee removed from the podium, from the meeting, or from the building. Please govern yourselves accordingly.
Mr. Chair, we have 11 public comment cards. The acceptance of public comment cards for general comments is now closed.
Thank you.
The first speaker is Mike Mahoney, followed by Lloyd Brown and Mrs. Mary Brown.
Good evening, council. Real quick, I went to the P&Z meeting the other day and I talked about something, and it's just like beating a dead horse for me for the last 15 years. But I just got a response in writing from code enforcement 3 months ago, and it was in regards to the parking issues on 22nd Street that I've been talking about for like 15 years. And it was explicitly explaining, or specifically about the right-of-way usage on 22nd Street. And, and I'm not going to talk about it anymore because I think the problem is going to be resolved with the new ownership of the safe harbor. But the response letter I got from code enforcement basically listed as a violation to the landowner, not saying who it was, contingent on the site plan being approved. So, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, we know about it, but it's not our problem. It's the developer's problem. So the whole thing that kills me with this is that I've been telling the city about it for 15 years. The developer didn't have a damn thing to do with it. The property owner that's utilizing this right of way illegally, and like I said, I've been coming here for 15 years, so nobody can dispute it. It's just been one of those things that the city's let go on and on and on, similar to the water plant. You could fix it. You didn't fix it. Should have fixed it. Legally, you should have fixed it. So it's just an easy solution to do something with it, even now, because there's still some signs that are there in this right-of-way area that my neighbor's using that I can't use, that I haven't been able to use for 15 years, because he's got tow-away signs on there that says these t-shirts will be towed immediately. And it's right-of-way. I mean, the city code enforcement said something before. Well, he's only utilizing such, well, the fact is, you've seen it. I've sent you pictures. Code enforcement, Mr. Evans has seen it. Everybody's seen it, exactly what's going on over there. So I just hope that maybe you can at least tell them to take down the signs, because Safe Harbor owns it now, and he doesn't care. They're going to redo everything, and that's the plan. So eventually I will have parking when, I don't know, but until then, again, every day it's like my customers come in, they can't park anywhere. There's no legal parking at all, legal, marked, striped like you normally would have. There's no legal handicap parking. So everybody parks wherever the hell they want, but my customers can't park anywhere on that whole area. And I've been there 30 years.
Thank you for coming, sir.
Mary Brown, Lloyd Brown, Mrs. Mary Brown, and then Lynn Hubbard. Lloyd Brown, Mrs. Brown, Lynn Hubbard, and then Margaret Shepherd.
Mayor Brown, Riviera Beach. You see what I have on here tonight? And I'm glad you pulled 6A and 6B, because it is other kids with these magnificent programs in this city here that funding should be utilized to let them know that we see them, we hear them, and we want to continue to encourage them to continue on the pathway to do right. Over at Missouri Estates, everybody knows that Ms. Brown fought hard and long to have that built up. And those kids over there are doing magnificent. 9 of them graduated in top honors from the aviation program, and they have put in training and put to work. And on New Year's Eve, we was at the Kaiser University, and Miss Brown spoke there along with the Blues Camp kids. You see this silhouette here? This is just who Fernandez Jones is. He comes into our city, professionals that travels all over the state and out of the country. And they comes in and they pulls out and brings out the best in our kids over there. The director of the university asked the young youth to sing the national anthem at one of their big programs that they are having at that university. So see, it is other kids in this city here. And We want to take them to Chicago, and not just Chicago. We want to take them everywhere because some of them have not been out of their environment, but they are striving. They are making good grades over there. And I've said this numerous of times. I've spoke about these things here over and over and over again, city manager, council people. Yes, we have to do better in other areas too. We have to serve the heart of these children in this city and stop parlaying with one person that wants to take the whole pot. That is not right. That is not right. And it must stop in 2025. It has to. We cannot be a city that's on the move, not without our kids. And a 6-month program Mr. Adams will conduct from ages 18 to 70. It inspires men to be great, to be great. It would be a workshop starting in January on every Saturday, February, March, April, and May, and June. So our men can rise to the occasion to be means. So you better heed to what I say here, because I'm not playing.
Thank you for your comments.
I'm not playing about these kids.
Lynn Hubbard, Margaret Shepherd, and Cindy March.
Lynn Hubbard, Riviera Beach. I just want to say that as a council and a resident here in Riviera Beach, in our last meeting we discussed about the amounts of money that in the increases we're going to be asked to pay. All of us, I think, have enough time, and we need to take another look at the monies that we're going to ask the residents to pay. We said that there wouldn't be an increase in what we're going to be asked to pay for 2025. The increase has already taken place. So if we're going up to 29% in the year of 2029, that is, so somebody's paying that 89 and 25, $89, this is just an example, would be paying maybe 172 by 2029. The substantial increase that we're being asked to foot, the only thing that we can do, as I said before, is to bend the backs of people because of our water bill. What we really got to start asking two things. One, for this $400 million, are we getting what we're paying for? We're not getting what we need. So in 5 or 10 years, we're going to have to come back to the well again, because the people west of 95 in Congress still won't have enough water pressure to receive a decent flow of water. So if we can't get everything we need now, we're going to have to come back and ask the residents to do this again at some point. And that's a bad thing. I think we need to stop and say, hey guys, we need to be able to tell our residents that we're getting all that we need. The only underground piping that we're going to have is coming from our old plant to the new plant. We're not doing anything, but we are doing new wells in some area, 2 wells here and 4 wells on Singer Island side. But that's not, we still have not given everybody what they need for $400 million, and to ask us to pay this and to put this on the backs of the residents, it's not right. We need to stop and figure out how can we do better, or how can we get more for the monies that we're being asked to pay. And most of all, how can we bring income into the city of Riviera Beach? Because every street that we could get money off of, we gave it away, or we put something on it that will not generate any tax for us to use. So I hope you guys would take a look at that, and I hope the residents of Riviera Beach understand that they have the right to ask our council to look at what's going on, and this is a whole lot of money for a whole lot of people. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Hubbard.
Next is Margaret Shepherd, Cindy March, and Julie Longton.
Margaret Shepherd, Riviera Beach. Mr. Lawson, I do want to say congratulations on your new arrival. I don't think we even had a chance to say thank you for bringing such a beautiful little kid into the world to help. I know she's going to enhance us, and I want to say I thank you. Whatever go on, I just want to thank you. Um, I'm I'm just baffled that as a resident and one of your top activists that we treated so badly. I think everybody that runs a race here, they consult me and they ask me what I think, and I have an opportunity to tell them what I think. I make sure I tell them be respectful, try not to get into confrontation with council, but try to have that motivation to know that you want to run this race. It's important, and I'm very sad that I I'm very sad that some of you all I supported. And I want to say it's one of the worst mistakes I ever made in my life. I heard somebody say that I think I said it before, XYD, you built uh, the fire stations, you bet that's your job. You should be very glad you have a job. Some of you don't, well, a couple of you don't have a job, I assume, I don't know. But it's just important that this water plant be built 2027. So you've been lying to us for the last, what, 8 years that you're going to step in and you're going to build this well and you're going to do this. Then you get up there and then you start making us the bad guys because we're asking questions and we're telling you that you said whatever you said. It's ridiculous. Another thing before I run out, Lanier, I was just once again so surprised that you start grilling our attorney. It made me feel lower than the lower that you have that ability in your mind to talk down to her and say inappropriate things. I think. And one thing I'll say it again, this clerk has been here all this time, faithful to the test. Faithful, you can ask her anything, and yet she is not respected. And that's the way the city is being ran. No respect, but you want us to respect you. I have no respect. A couple of you, I hope to God that I know that the residents get you behind out of here. You've done nothing for me. And if it weren't for you, Mr. Spirit is coming on Lakeview, I don't think this project with Ribovich would be working as good as it is. Because I think they're calm now. We don't have no representation over there, and that's the oldest neighborhood, been there. They call it Cocky Joe's. That's where the Bahamians come on the water, and I know because my grandfather came on the boat, and that's where they stayed. And yet we have no representation, and they're beautiful homes. Thank you.
Cindy March, Julie Logden, and Bruce Guyton.
Good evening, Council. Cindy March. I'd just like to know when we're going to remove active in front of Mrs. Deborah Hall's name. I mean, she deserved this, and especially what she went through the other week, putting people on the ballot, taking people off, telling them what to pay and what not to pay. We got to get out of this unethical behavior, because it's hurting our employees and it has a reflect on our taxpayers. And I'm so happy that I've seen a lot of people out tonight. And I tell people, social media can help you or it can hurt you. And I be on it. And trust me, I be on it. I love my city. I pray for my city. I bash some of the people in the city because you don't do right by us. You just don't. And me and Doug had a meeting. I was so upset. I called Glenn, then I called Doug. And me and Doug has not been talking, because of this election. I don't like to put politics before the people. I don't care what color you is, you got to do right by us. You have to be honest. And me, Doug, I said, we need to have a meeting and we need to have it now. You call the place and I'll be there. And me and Doug met. I had so much malice in my heart for Doug because of the other election ran. But I had to put that malice to the side, that personal vendetta to the side, and I had to talk to him one-on-one. And we came to an agreement. And I would love to know, Mr. Evans, if you can answer this question. Who is this mystery woman that disturbed this election for candidates running? You hired them. You interfere with everything. That's why the city is like it is. Because you got to hire this person. You got to get the okay. Yes, they can be hired. Because you want them to do the unethical behavior that you have plagued on this city for years to come. That's why we can't move this city forward. But we're going to move it forward with this water plant because we need it. Because I'm one, and I reiterate, I'm one that stayed in the hospital for 11 days. and almost not made it out the hospital. So, Doug, I want to thank you for having that meeting with me. I can put my personal difference to the side because, Sharma and Lanier, it's time for you all to move. You all gotta go. Gotta go. Tragic, thank you for your smart behavior. I don't care nothing about your attitude and your despicable disposition. You stand on business, and I appreciate that. Glenn, I can smile in my face. I will walk the floor for you 1,000 more times if need be. You might have didn't win by popularity, but you stood your ground. And you have showed us who you really are. And it's not about black and white with you. You stand on business as well. Mayor Felder, you stand there because we're going to appoint you back in office. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's enough already. And you all do have a great night.
The next speaker is Julie Logden, Bruce Guyton, and Michelle Hargret. Julie, Bruce Guyton, followed by Michelle, and after that is Erica Davis.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Bruce Guyton, and I am the candidate who has filed to run for District 1, the seat that Tragic McCoy is now occupying. Residents have come to me, and one of the things that they keep telling me about Tragic, he's rude, he's disrespectful, he's condescending, and he's a bully. So I did public records request. This is a pattern of behavior. I pulled something from the first term, not all this other craziness that's been going on here lately about Tragic. I got a police report on a city council person. He was sitting as a city council person. This happened January 6, 2021 at 2304 North Congress Avenue. While waiting to speak with the property manager, Officer Nance noticed traffic was backed up to enter the property. Information was given to Officer Nance referencing a new gate. While waiting, Officer Nance witnessed a reddish colored vehicle at the end of the line. The driver of the vehicle appeared to be very upset due to the line being backed up. After blowing the vehicle horn several times, the property manager turned to Officer Nance and warned him this is about to be a problem. While talking to the property manager, Officer Nance witnessed the driver of the vehicle yell out, "I don't give a F," but he said the word, "about you telling the police." Officer Nance immediately turned on his camcorder and had the driver continue, as the driver continued to blow his horn. Once at the gate, the driver later identified as Tragic McCoy, demanding that the employees open the gate. McCoy used several curse words while expressing his anger. During the conversation, Officer Nance asked Mr. McCoy, was he serious? At which time, McCoy stated he was dead serious. This is a council person talking to an employee while he is an elected official. At one point, McCoy became so upset, Officer Nance witnessed McCoy release his seatbelt as if he was going to get out of the vehicle. McCoy then informed Officer Nance that this was his third time waiting in line and that he shouldn't have to wait. Once McCoy was done yelling and cursing at the employees on the property, McCoy was allowed to enter the property. As McCoy drove off, employees from the property were frightened from the loud noises coming from Mr. McCoy's rear tires. This is unacceptable. Our brand as Riviera Beach, we can do better. We don't need to curse at our employees, disrespecting police officers, and come March 11, you do have an option.
Thank you for your comments.
The next speaker is Michelle Hargret, followed by Erica Davis and Dr. Collymore.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Felder, City Council members, City Manager, and staff. My name is Michelle Hargret, and I am a proud resident of the Monroe Heights neighborhood. I have a question that may not be answered this evening, but I would like to have it read into the record so that I may receive an official response eventually. On January 7th, I attended the community meeting of the Utility Special District. Based on the information presented, I left with the impression that our water/wastewater would increase about 20% year over year for about 3 to 4 years. Though that information was troubling, I made peace with it. Now, in this meeting, it was said by Mr. Ori that 96% of the recurring revenue derived from monthly user rates were basically coming from the users. I understand also that in order to guarantee that the water treatment facility is funded, it is necessary to depend upon the users to fund it. But from today's meeting, I am left with the impression that the 20% increase year over year that I understood from the community meeting is basically a worst case scenario. I also understand that the city manager and council will pursue alternative funding sources and grants to help lower the burden of the cost of the facility. What I do not understand, based on the information that we received in the mail versus what Mr. Ori said in this meeting, I still do not understand what our final increases will be. So my question is, if our city representatives are successful in securing grants and the burden is lessened, how will we be informed of any savings? And will we residents actually see those savings? Or will they go into some fund to, I don't know, uh, a fund just to hold on to or to replenish our anything else that we've already spent? I can understand that you may not be able to answer the question in this meeting. However, you do have my contact information on the public comment card. If you are unable to respond now, please email me with the answer. I would also like to know a good understanding of the difference between the rates that are going to be charged for those of us who reside in regular residential homes versus those who are in multifamily units. I still don't quite understand the difference between my gallon of water versus the gallon of water of somebody living in a condominium. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
The next speaker is Erica Davis, Dr. Collingwood, Fane Lozman.
Erica Davis, Riviera Beach. You heard what she said, right? Itemized bills with explanations. Every time you make a move and it costs them money, they need to know about it on paper because everybody doesn't have Facebook or a computer or know how to use a computer. So we can keep this noise down about lies about the water. They don't understand, so they need to know. And you all need to educate yourself a little bit better about development and business because I watch these meetings from home and they're absolutely disgusting because none of you all listen, comprehend, or understand what the vendor is saying when they come up here. You disrespect them with your cocky ways, or you don't say anything at all. You don't add. The only one that asks real questions, but sometimes he doesn't listen, is Mr. Spiritus because he's been in this business. But most of the time, you don't comprehend what we expect out of you this year. I don't care who's in that seat. You better put some latitude in your attitude. You better respect the vendors and the residents. And you better understand what you're talking about here. And everybody needs to cross their T's and dot their I's, so we don't have to sit up here for hours and then delay an item because you don't have all the things that you need. Communication is terrible. We need you to stand on business if you're going to stand on business. Everybody needs to be thorough. Everybody needs to know what they're discussing. Everybody needs to be educated on business and money because it costs us. When you delay, once again, when you delay projects, when you just do what you want to do for your personal agenda, it costs us millions of dollars that we do not have, and the residents do not have that. So if you need to take a business class on development or anything else, you need to do it. Because just because you're getting in this seat because somebody love you or like you, you better understand what you're doing because you are liabilities right now. From $150 million water plant to $450 million because of delays and foolishness. We're sick of the foolishness. We're not going to take it anymore. So if you want these seats, you better be educated on it. It's not just getting a seat. And we don't want you taking no money from developers and coming up here with your fake behind votes. We're not doing that anymore either. It's 2025. Latitude and attitude.
and letting the residents understand what you're talking about. So they won't come up here being misled for your foolishness. Stop lying.
The next speaker is Dr. Collymore, followed by Fane Lozman, and the last speaker is Doretta Polk.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Dr. Linda Collymore, and I'm coming to bring tidings of joy. So I just want to represent the Diplomat Center down the street at 4119 West Blue Heron Boulevard. We are here new in the city of Riviera Beach, hoping to bring enhancement to the city and push forward some much needed agendas that's here. And so I just wanted to say that we would like to invite the city out to our grand opening, which will be on January the 28th. That's a Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. And I will turn it over to my daughter, Leanne Collymore.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Leanne Collymore. Just wanted to quickly give you a brief idea of what even the Diplomat Center is. Just a hub for the community. You will find all sorts of things there. But I want you all to come out on the 28th. There will be events ranging from that Saturday, the 25th, all the way to the end of that week. Bounce houses, things for the children, Give Back Wednesday, networking events for businesses. Also, I believe it's on the Thursday. There's a Women in Business networking event. So I want you all to be on the lookout. Please follow us on Instagram at Diplomat Center PB. And then also you can find us on Facebook at the Diplomat Center so that you can see all the events happening. But again, we want to invite you all out to come. Again, it is the old Riviera Beach Channel 29 television station. So if you know where it is, next to the car wash across the street from the Denny's, please come by, check us out. Between 10 and 3 p.m., you can come and take a tour. We would love for you to see what it looks like inside so that you can have an idea of what we are bringing to the community. That's all.
Could you give us the address, please?
4119 West Blue Heron Boulevard, Riviera Beach. Thank you all.
Fane Lozman, followed by Doretta Polk.
Fane Lozman, Singer Island. You know, I said this a few months ago, I'm gonna say it again. Everybody's blaming everybody up here over the water scandal. The water scandal is not the city attorney's problem. It's not the city manager who I've had my differences with. He's not responsible. The mayor's not responsible. Trevor McCoy's not responsible. Mr. Lawson's not responsible. Mr. Spiritus is not responsible, and Ms. Lanier is not responsible. The water scandal started in 2016. And then it was covered up, and then it broke again recently. All through the last 9 years, there was a scandal involving the water plant. Who was the common thread between 2016 and today? Kashamba Miller Anderson. Why do I care? What is the big deal, you say? I was good friends with the former dock master at the Riviera Beach Marina, Willis Williams. Williams was quite an entrepreneur. He had a half dozen rental homes around the city. We used to go to the Okeechobee Steakhouse. Great guy, Willis. Willis categorically stated that he knew specific elderly people who he believed died as a result of the water scandal. Now, they may have had other medical issues, you know, heart disease, diabetes, whatever, but he said what put them over the edge was dysentery from the water scandal. So that's a pretty strong accusation to make, because I know these people, I'm in the community. There needs to be an investigation into was the water a contributing factor to these elderly people's death. Now, when I said it before, people laughed. I said, let's see if President Trump gets elected. I'm personally going to reach out to the new U.S. Attorney in South Florida when that person is assigned and say, hey, we need to look in and see if this is true. There needs to be an investigation because people were getting sick. You have a class action lawsuit with well over 100 residents that said they got seriously ill drinking the water. So it's just not something I'm pulling out of thin air. These are people that got sick. I don't know how many people died, according to Willis, but it was It was significant. It's significant if it's more than one. I think a charge can be looked at for recklessness. Involuntary manslaughter is a pretty serious deal if you're aware of something and you do nothing. Her focus was mainly on Singer Island, on me, wasting all the attention on a guy that wanted to develop his property, wanted to continue living on his floating home. She and Botel, they weren't focusing on what the residents wanted here for the water. They were focusing on how could they screw me over. I'm telling you, there's a problem. We have our own police chief, supposed to be a respected guy. He should look into this, but the mayor would have to tell him to do it. The mayor would say, go pull elderly residents over 60 that died between 2018 and 2024, and let's take a look at their death certificates. Let's see if drinking that water was a contributing factor or not.
Doretta Polk.
Good evening. My name is Doretta Polk. I just want to say, yes, Ms. Kashama Miller, Councilman Kashama Miller was on the diocese at that time. She did her best she could to take care of us. This problem didn't just start in 2016. This plant should have been taken down and rebuilt over almost 50 years ago. So if we want to investigate, it may be investigate even further back. Who's to say? Who's to say? I'm sorry if there was any casualties of death. If there was, I am so sorry about that. But this was decades of neglect, and this should not come totally on Mrs. Councilwoman Kashama Miller, period. Fast forward to last night concerning the OIG report. Councilman Trodrick McCoy stated that what will you be doing, Mr. Evans, concerning what new interventions will you have to correct what was done? And he said, listed certain about it, the cameras on the investigators who's going to be testing the water and other things that he said. And he said that I would like to have a meeting with you and one-on-one. And sometimes the public doesn't need to know everything. Well, no. We're going to have transparency here. The public needs to know everything concerning what the new establishments and rules concerning testing the water. And if you're going to have a private meeting, it should be with the entire board, and then it should come to the public. We should be aware of everything. That's what the problem is, probably been for at least years of hiding and certain people doing this and that and not coming out with the truth. And we see this on the OIG report, what was done, the fabrication of false positives, negatives, all of it. It was totally wrong what was done to us. And I thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, that's the end of public comment.
Thank you, ma'am. All matters listed under consent agenda are routine in action, taking one motion. There's no separate discussion of the items unless the councilperson so requests. In the event, the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered in its normal sequence. Dr. Spiritus has already requested to remove 3D. Are there any other items that want to be removed from consent? Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment cards from consent?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we do have one public comment card.
Thank you. Motion to adopt consent with 3D being removed.
Second.
Motion been made and properly seconded. Madam Clerk? I'm sorry, roll call, please. I'm sorry, public comment, please. Thank you. It's getting late, guys.
Fane Lozman,
This was the only reason I came to the meeting tonight, was to talk about 3C. The city attorney is aware of what's going on with the boundary lines between my properties, Halo Development LLC's properties, and other properties north of Pine Point Road. They were platted when the properties were sold by the state in 1924. They sold 307 acres. They sold the block. Imagine this is the block. And they put it in a certain location on Singer Island. The city, 100 years later, or more than 100 years later, said that the survey marker where they measure the different property boundaries was in the wrong place. The city spent $75,000 to try to convince a judge that it's in the wrong place. And the judge said, okay, I'll buy it. Even though there's all kind of legally flawed arguments, you have 30 years to fix something. The city, the state, and county agreed back in 1915 or the 1920s, this is where the marker is. They decided to move it. The city has a survey they spent 75 grand to make that shows everybody's property shifted to the east. And our property, Halo Development LLC, shifted beyond the edge of the firehouse and the water plant. Now, I know that's kind of bizarre and it's funny to look at, but if you look at the survey, it will show everything shifted east. Now, the city manager, the city attorney knows there's a problem, but I think she doesn't know how to fix it because it's so bizarre. How do you fix that? How do you go back to where it should be? There's two things that happen. The city can leave it where it is, and some properties north of me cut condominiums in half. Other properties, every legal description for the city is in the wrong place. So somebody up there should ask the city manager, how are we going to deal with this? Because we can force the issue, and I think we are. We're going to give an eviction notice to say, you're going to have to vacate the firehouse. You're going to have to get rid of the water tank, because based on your city's own survey, that's where it is. The city road, where they think used to be the eastern boundary and western boundary, that was correct on the old section marker, but now the road is in the wrong place. But don't take my word for it. Take the city's own survey that they spent 75 grand to do to show that our property now includes the fire station and water plant. And the reason being is you can't shrink the 307 acres. They sold 307 acres. You can't take away that land that the state sold. You can relocate it. And that's what you did at a cost of 75 grand. Now, why did you do that? You did that with the idea that you would shrink the submerged lands that were subject to a possible trial for damages for regulatory taking. Well, that didn't happen. And the legacy now is you got the property in the wrong place. So the city attorney, she knows it's in the wrong place. I think she doesn't know what to do about it. But in the interim, we're going to force the issue and say, hey, here's a notice of eviction, vacate the firehouse, and move the water plant. Thank you.
Roll call, Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lanier,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem McCoy,
Yes.
Councilperson Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Councilperson Spiritus,
Yes.
Chairperson Lawson, unanimous vote.
3D. Hello, 3D.
Item 3D,
Mm-hmm.
Resolution 1-25, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, announcing the award of the Blight Prevention through Demolition Grant from the Solid Waste Authority in the amount of $124,500 to perform demolition of the Barracuda Bay asphalt parking and disconnects located at 1621 West, Blue Heron Boulevard, Riviera Beach, Florida, legally identified as property control number 5643422904-0080010, authorizing the mayor and acting city clerk to execute an interlocal grant agreement with Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County, authorizing the finance director to establish a budget and providing an effective date. Mr. Chair, we do not have any comment cards on this item. The acceptance of the cards is closed.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
We have a second. Item fails for lack of second. 8A.
Item 8A, ordinance number 4275, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving a city-initiated comprehensive plan amendment on behalf of the Riviera Beach Utility Special District, amending infrastructure element policies 1.2.5, 1.6.1, 1.6.2, 1.6.8, 1.8.1, and 1.8.2, the intergovernmental coordination element policy 1.3.1, and associated addendum of the city's comprehensive plan provided for applicability, conflicts, severability, and codification, and for providing for an effective date. Mr. Chair, we do not have any comment cards on this item. The acceptance of the cards is closed.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion made and properly seconded. Mr. Evans?
Mr. Chair and members of the board, if I could have the Director of Development Services, Mr. Clarence Sermons, to make this presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of council, honorable mayor, and Madam Attorney. The item before you is the second or adoption hearing for this proposed comprehensive plan amendment. As you are aware, on first reading, this is the adoption of the water supply plan amendments to the city's comprehensive plan. Once the UD adopted that plan, it necessitated updates for our comp plan. Those changes have been made since first reading. It's been circulated to the state for their approval, as well as regional review agencies. Other than addressing those comments, there have been no changes to this item since first reading. However, staff, including utility district staff who worked on the plan, are here if there are any questions. That's all from staff.
Comments from the board? Madam Clerk, did you say we have public comments?
There are no public comment cards on this item, Mr. Chair.
Roll call.
Sorry, we don't have any church announcements on this one? Oh, okay, all right.
Clerk?
Chair Pro Tem McCoy,
Yes.
Councilperson Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Councilperson Spearless,
Yes.
Chairperson Lawson,
Yes.
unanimous vote.
11A.
Resolution number 13-25, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving site plan application number SP-24-0024 from JS Family Holdings, Inc., Gerald Properties, LLC, and Fish House Properties, LLC, for an amendment to an approved site plan for the Viking Sales and Service Center. The subject project is plus or minus 3.32 acres and is located between East 16th, East 14th Street to the north and south, Avenue C to the east, and North Broadway in the downtown core DC zoning district with a downtown mixed use DMU land use designation, providing for an effective date and for other purposes. Mr. Chair, we do not have any public comment cards for this item. The acceptance of the cards is now closed.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Ms. Evans?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, if I could have the Director of Development Services, Mr. Clarence Sermons, to make this presentation.
We do, seem like we got another meeting in the back. Can we address that?
Phone, check. Excuse me, staff, if we can, the noise is carrying to the front, guys. Thank you. Mr. Evans, I'm sorry, Mr. Sermons?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening again. Clarence Sermons, Director of Development Services. The item before you is an amendment to a site plan approved by City Council within the last year and a half. The applicant has requested an amendment to the site plan that does constitute more than the 5% that's within staff discretion to approve. So the presentation you are about to receive will highlight the changes that are proposed to the site plan for your consideration. Without further ado, I yield the floor to Principal Planner Curtis Thompson.
Thank you. Okay, well, I think I'm going to try to do this in about 2 slides, board, if you will allow me, given the hour of the night and the things that you have heard. You've heard before you the presentation of the case involved. This is the red dot representing the location of the subject property. Okay, now what you have here is the location of the subject property. It's approximately plus or minus 3.32 acres in area, as identified by the crosshatch area. This is the location of the principal property. This is their accessory parking area, and this is the area that is the subject of this application. Back on July 19th of 2023, the board may remember that you all approved via resolution 104-23 this particular project. Okay. Now, this is really the first of the 2 slides that I think capsulizes this presentation. This is what you all approved back in 2023 with this warehouse building here. Okay. Now, what the applicant is proposing to do is to not build that structure. This is what they're proposing now to have this area to act as a outdoors display area for their $500,000 to multi-million-dollar boats that they have for sale or for display. This looks like a car dealership, except what you have here is a boat dealership. Exact same concept. Oh, by the way, just to show you that this is where the warehouse structure was. The warehouse structure was about 9,000 or so square feet. The total building lot covers was about 37%. Now it is 31%. So it's a reduction of the overall building impact. This is to give you some idea of how it will look. This is Avenue C. This is the gate that is used, that will be used here to close off that area. It's a one-way gate going from east to west. And as you can see, it will be lined with landscaping and trees and a picket fence. So you've heard the presentation by the clerk and by Mr. Sermons. And staff has determined that based upon the 6 site plan criteria that this application meets those criteria, because it's a reduction actually in the overall building impact, and it's a reduction of the overall impact of the project itself. Now, staff respectfully ask that you consider approving this reduction in the site plan impact, has indicated in the backup in the staff report that you have before you. And staff would like to thank you for your attention, and I wanted to move quickly because it's been, I'm sure, a long night, but it was important that you get a brief overview of this project. Thank you for your attention. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry. The applicant has 2GHO, who is the consultant representing them. Mr. Alec Dickerson and Dan Simpson is here to also have a presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Appreciate it. I'm going to go through our presentation rapidly as well. It mirrors their presentation.
Before you start, Mr. Chair.
Correct.
So, Mr. Kurt Thompson, you seem to have suggested that you were going to show us 2 different images, but I only really seen one image of the site plan. So was it your suggestion that they were just simply removing the one outdoor space? I was trying to see what the other one was, I guess.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
But I don't think I've seen, that's all we've seen. So they're just gonna remove that?
Yes, sir, this is the first of the two site plans that show slides that show the impact of the project. Back in '23, as Mr. McCoy, was the approval was for the warehouse. The applicant now has decided not to build that structure, okay? And instead, use the same area for outdoor boat display, as an outdoor display area.
Mr. Kurt Thompson, so that percentage was about 8% reduction?
It's a reduction, yes, sir, in the overall building lot coverage. The maximum they allowed is 85%, and so and here they propose it was initially 37%. Now it's being reduced to 31%.
So 6%. You said 38 to 31?
Yes, sir, 31%.
So, and 5% was the threshold?
It's 85% is the maximum.
5% is the threshold for it to have to come back before council review, is what I'm asking.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay, so it seems like it's pretty de minimis, you know?
Well, it really is, Mr.
Okay.
McCoy, as you,
All right.
if you notice.
Okay, so I guess, do we really need a presentation from the applicant?
To that point, I would agree, Councilman McCoy. I don't know if we need an presentation, unless the board would like to see a presentation. No. Okay, board, we're okay with that?
I mean,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
We'll
I mean,
defer
if you want
to
to be
you.
here till
Thank you.
midnight,
I mean,
Madam Clerk?
Hear more church announcements.
Do we have any more public comments?
Not for this item, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilperson Lanier,
Yes.
Chairperson McCoy,
Yes.
Councilperson Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Councilperson Spiritus,
Yes.
Chairperson Lawson. That's a unanimous vote.
Thank you all, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we are on item 11B.
Thank you.
We have one. Okay, okay. Resolution number 008-25, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, directing Kaufman Lynn to award a grant to, the space is blank, as indicated in Comprehensive Agreement Section 10.8F, as approved in Resolution 13422, and providing an effective date. Mr. Chair, we have two public comment cards. Is there one, is that one for this? One public comment card on this item. The exception of public comment cards is now closed.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Motion been made and properly seconded.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Evans?
Did he make this presentation?
Thank you. Mr. Bailey?
We are coming to the end of Fire Station 87's construction, and there's one more administrative item that is before you. As you know, the project is donating $150,000 to an educational program. The current contract outlines that the council should direct Kaufman Lynn where those funds should be distributed to, and this item is to fulfill that obligation in the contract. Here to answer any questions if you have them.
Mr. Chair.
Recognized.
Mr. Bailey, who did we give the money to in Station 88?
I apologize, sir. I don't remember the name of the nonprofit that got the Fire Station 88 money off the top of my head. I didn't come prepared with that.
Mr. Evans?
Mr. Chair, if I may. It was the Youth Recreation Association.
All right, isn't this the same contract or the same thing?
No, sir. The contract for Fire Station 88 contemplated an educational program that had specific benchmarks and a program. The contract for Fire Station 87 provides that the council may decide where the money should be directed. So it is not the same. They're two different contracts.
Mr. Chair?
Recognized.
It's my personal belief that we should probably do the same thing with these funds as we did with the previous firehouse.
Mr. Chair.
Recognized.
So, I mean, do we have a list of people? We're just supposed to throw out names? I mean, is there a process in how we're gonna do this? Any suggestions? Do we have a chance to discuss the procedure, criteria? I'm not comfortable with just throwing a name out there because we have a bunch of nonprofits that are constantly asking for something. And I can't just throw a name out there and not have any supporting criteria to support it.
Mr. Chair, if I may. This item was requested by the board to put this item on the agenda, and I think for that very same purposes as it relates to discussion on how the board wishes to proceed, if there was, entities that the board was inclined to support, if there was a process that the board would like for us to craft for the purposes of this particular allocation, it just has to be specific to an education program. So we're just asking for clarity as to how the board wishes for us to move forward.
Mr. Chair,
You recognize.
I would suggest it being set up. I think at one point we were talking about doing something similar with our community benefits that we used to have, where people could apply and we could have a criteria set, see if they meet the criteria, and we can split it up a number of ways versus just giving it all to one entity. That would be my suggestion. And then we can, sort through it and vote on who gets it or however, depending on how many applications we get. I think that would be the most fairest way to do it. That way more people are able to benefit from it versus just one entity.
Okay. There's no comments?
Mr. Chair, if I
So,
may.
before we go on with that, Mr. Evans, well, no, go ahead. Go with your comments, and then I have some follow-up.
I just had some conversations with the city attorney, and based on the contract, it basically says and education program, making it singular, that it has to go to one particular educational program.
Mr. Chair. So, I mean, the process would be the same, but then it would just be the one then, if that's the case.
Okay. And I agree, Ms. Milanis. And my only concern is that we approved the budget and as of October, we have 250,000 that we haven't allocated and 100,000 that we allocated for nonprofit programs and for READ program, and we have not created a program yet to actually get those funds disseminated. It's January 15th, and we're still sitting on those monies in the coffer, and it's not in the community. So I think that the city already has enough items that they're addressing right now. And when this originally came before the board, if you guys as a board remember, we approved Youth Rec to receive the funds for both projects. There was some discussion where there was back and forth, but when I voted on Youth Recreation receiving the funds for the programming for both fire stations. So I know there was some gray area and confusion, and that was some of the concern that I had. And I'd have no problem going forward with just approving those funds for youth recreation to allow for them to actually impact the community with the dollars. I've seen firsthand what they've done with the money and what they're doing for the last 60 plus years. So I'd be inclined to just supporting youth recreation, who was the original recipient of the first grant.
Mr. Chair,
You're recognized.
is that a motion?
It's just discussion. We'll have a motion after we hear from all of our colleagues. If no one else has it, then I'll just make a motion. Discussion?
Yeah.
You're recognized, Ms. Melanson.
What type of education programs do they provide?
Mr. Evans, staff, representatives from Youth Rec, anyone want to speak or opine on that? Because I guess the concern is that the contract was changed after the original contract, and it required a singular educational program.
Or is it something they'll create, or is it the entity, the organization has to?
I think we missed the mark when we first did it because we didn't outline clearly exactly what those dollars were supposed to go to, what was going to be the process, what were the steps. I know that they were supposed to create jobs. We talked about opportunities. We talked about programming with the fire station and the painting and electrical, but there were a lot of different discussions, but we didn't clearly outline it. And my issue now is that to put it back on staff again, and we're still sitting on money we allocated in October, I wouldn't be comfortable with giving them another task. But to that point, Mr. Evans, staff, is there anything that we could address in reference to youth rec and what education component, just to make sure it's clear and concise with the contract?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
You're recognized.
If it's the board's desire, we can sit down and have conversation with them, but I'm not familiar with the specificities of the types of program or what type of program they would build out or what programs they have in their quadri of programs. I know they offer a bunch of different scopes of services, but I don't know specifically what this allocation of funds would be provided for.
Did we,
Chair.
Board Member McCoy, you're recognized, Councilman.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Nguyen, if I can have your attention on this too, members, I don't know that this is any different than a procurement code. We can't just hand somebody something over without making the opportunity available for anybody, any and everybody, quite frankly. And I think it's bad practice to sit here and guess as to what may happen when we issue the funds. We've already seen how that works. So I think if we're going to do this, let's put forth a short process to allow individuals to submit a proposal. But there is no proper way just to unilaterally give this to just one specific agency without us in good faith knowing what the plan is. So I gotta kind of think that if we're gonna do this, then let's make it available for a short process, because I sure as heck don't hope that this lasts, 2 and 3 months. But we've particularly created dollars in our city budget for the READ program. And remind me, Ms. Evans, did we desire to put it out, or how did we decide that we were going to do that?
You're recognized.
The intent was to have that presentation for the board at this meeting, but we certainly wanted to get direction from the board for the purposes of finalizing it. If it's the board's desire to effectively move forward with a truncated process, we can do that and have groups submit for whether it's the READ program or provide proposals for the READ program or provide proposals for this particular 150. It really just boils down to what the board is, but most certainly that program, the READ program, will be on your next agenda. And if it's the board's desire for us to facilitate some type of process where you can consider this allocation or proposals at your next regular meeting, we can provide for entities to provide a scope of the services that they would provide, and you can review that as part of your next meeting or even your second meeting in February for allocation.
And then thank you, Mr. Evans. But we can talk about the READ program. We also, as you recall, have the funds for the nonprofit programming as well. So those are items that we can present. But germane to this contract, I would actually, this 150, are we saying that we want to incorporate that into that program? Because my goal would be to provide those funds to Youth Rec, and that would be my motion.
Is that a motion, Mr. Chair? Yes.
Make a motion to assign the funds to Youth
Yeah, but
Recreation Association.
I think I respect your motion, Mr.
Thank
Chair,
you.
but I was trying to ask a question.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
So-
he answered it. Did you have a follow-up?
Actually, he did not.
Okay. What additional concerns did you
Okay,
have
so
with Mr. Evans'
my question
response?
is, did we not put out a process for those individuals to decide that we were going to allow persons to submit a proposal in the READ grant?
And to that point, he answered it
Okay.
because I heard, but if you want to ask the same question again, he said no.
Mr.
He'll bring
Chair.
it to the next meeting.
Thank you. So, Mr. Evans?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
You're recognized.
We did not put out a process for the READ program. We wanted to bring the item before you this evening to get your final feedback because we didn't want to miss the mark as what the board's desire is. And so that's why that particular process hasn't gone forward.
Well, I guess I'm just confused because I know just like everybody up here on this board, mysteriously, I get an email this morning at 5:30 in the morning with someone sending us a proposal. So that's why I was confused that, like, this seemed like a conversation we had among many, but I mean, I know I can't be far off that we're now receiving proposals, and I'm trying to figure out what prompted that, Mr. Evans.
Mr. Chair, if I may. This item was slated to be on the agenda, so it was on the published agenda. It was one of the items that I removed that was supposed to be presented to the board. So that can be probably the precursor as to why persons submitted proposals. And we have talked about it. People in the community have called and inquired about the program, and it has been largely discussed as part of our budget process and subsequent discussion. So that's probably why you received unsolicited proposals. We as the city, to my knowledge, have not received any unsolicited proposal for READ funding.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was trying to find out. Thanks.
Mr. Chair? I know you made a motion, but can I ask one question before we move forward?
Go ahead.
This would go to, I don't know, Mr. Evans or to Ms. Nguyen. This project was done, Station 87 was done according to an ITN, correct?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Recognized.
Yes.
Okay, so didn't we follow that same procedure from Station 88, which was done by resolution? Don't we have to follow the same procedure on 87?
Mr. Chair.
You recognized.
I would have to, and this is just off recall, and I have to defer to Mr. Bailey. This particular second tranche of money, I think, was handled slightly different. Mr. Bailey, can you speak to that? Or have any knowledge about that?
Yes, sir. As the chair mentioned, in the original proposal from Kaufman Lynn, there was supposed to be sort of an apprenticeship program built out, and $150,000 was to do funding augmentation for employees, to do trades that would actually take individuals who are looking to learn a trade, bring them to the project, fund their salaries for a number of different trades for local Riviera Beach residents. Due to a number of issues and the timing of the project, that sort of program didn't come to fruition, but the $150,000 that was allocated was then directed by this board to youth recreation. As we moved from Fire Station 88 to 87, the contract was done a little differently for the second project, and therefore there was a similar discussion about where the money would go for Fire Station 88, and in order to attempt to eliminate any of the previous sort of consternation, it was written in the contract this way by Ms. McBride that we would just bring it before the board, allow the board to provide direction, and Kaufman Lynn would strike the check and make that donation.
Okay.
So Ms. McBride changed the direction of this contract to allow for it to be brought to the board. My concern again, colleagues, is that we brought an item to the staff from the board to have them create a program. It's January 15th and we still haven't addressed it yet because we have a lot of pressing items to address. And I believe that's one of the concerns why we did away with community benefits. Lord knows nonprofits in this community need the funds. So I would like for us to create a program as quickly as possible to allow for the READ program and for the nonprofit funds we've already allocated, which is over $350,000 to get into the community. There's nonprofits that call us on a daily basis asking for support and funding, and we've received numerous unsolicited proposals, as my colleague has stated. So oversight of the nonprofits is an issue because that's just another task that staff is not capable of handling right now. Let the nonprofits work, but actually hold the nonprofits accountable, put parameters and measures in place. Let's have address some of the concerns that they have and make sure that they're hitting the mile markers that we've put in place for them. But a simple program should be easy to disseminate when we have organizations that are actually going to get the dollars into the community. So, colleagues, we're asking staff to create another program. And as you see, we're halfway through a quarter through our fiscal year, and we haven't addressed it yet. So if we've approved funds already and we want to approve additional money to go back into this pool, it's just going to delay the process of getting it into the organizations that need it, that need to get it into the community.
Mr. Chair?
You recognize Dr. Sredis?
I second your motion.
Councilman McCoy, you recognize?
I mean, I resent the implication. How is the delay on us? They finished Fire Station 87. And
I never said it was on us.
Well, it doesn't matter, but
it does matter. You're misstating what I said.
So all right, you go ahead and finish.
Thank you. That is not accurate. Clarify the record. That is not what I said. So I did not actually blame the council. I said staff was given the dollars, we've approved it, and they haven't brought back the program. So what are you resenting? You can speak now. You're recognized.
No, I insist. Get everything you need to say out.
You're recognized.
Okay, all right. Well, to mention the delay, this is the first time that we've seen this item. So the fire station is probably 90% complete. And all of a sudden now we're forced to make a decision on this now. Today, it's like, apparently had this been that much of a concern, when they started doing work at the fire station, it should not have gotten this far. I mean, it should have been brought up before that this is going to be inevitable, that we're going to need to decide how this $150,000 get dispersed and to whom and what that process is going to be. But to sit here and suggest that there's a delay of some sort, I mean, I don't think a delay, in my opinion, justifies us not being good stewards and making sure that we go through a process that's fair and equitable, as opposed to just unilaterally giving this to somebody because all of a sudden we're almost done with the fire station. I mean, as much as I would like to just hand it over to somebody, I hate being put in these political positions where you got to sit up here and decide whether or not you want to give it to your cousin's organization or that organization. Quite frankly, this is why I was happy that we got rid of the waste management dollars. I mean, I can't even go in the grocery store without somebody asking me, y'all got grants for nonprofit organizations. I was like, what do we look like? United Way? I mean, with our money and their ideas, we can move mountains. But, the truth of the matter is we have a number of programs. And I can challenge anybody up here in the audience to tell me what municipality offers more programs, educational, between the youth empowerment, between all of the great things that Mr. Brody has going on at the library. There are so many different programs here in the city and already existing within just the Riviera Beach elementary schools that I don't think we're matched with anybody, certainly not in Palm Beach County. So, I mean, let's be honest and true about it. I mean, we have youth recreation, so not youth recreation, our youth PAL association, who's been waiting on $25,000. God knows where that's at in the process, but I've literally followed that down. But they're doing more than just athletics. There's an education component. But to sit here and suggest that there's a delay and we need to act now, it's not a delay on me. And as far as I'm concerned, there's no urgency for this. I would much rather us have a fair process, because clearly youth recreation isn't the only game in town, because for some odd reason, everybody on this board received an email this morning about what I thought was already out on the streets. So if you seem to believe that there's some rush to get it done now, perhaps because it's election time, I'm not moved by that, sir, at all. So I would much rather us go out and let's do a process that everybody can have a fair opportunity to put in on it. And certainly, if we've already given it to them, where are the results? Show me some measurables, show me some deliverables. Because I can tell you right now, it bothers me having a 10-year-old that I see kids walking down the street after school with nowhere to go. So help me figure this out.
Mr. Chair?
Move to extend.
Councilperson Lanier?
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem McCoy?
Yes.
Councilperson Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Councilperson Spearless? Chair Lawson?
No.
Meeting extended with Chair Lawson dissenting.
Additional comments from the board?
Mr. Chair,
You're recognized.
what was the measures for the first 150,000? What was the outcome that the city was looking for? Or was it just 150,000 we gave away and we didn't put any measures behind it? Because I know when we usually give money away, we're asking for something back. Do you know what that is, Mr. Chair or City Manager?
Oh, no, the chair knows. He was all taking pictures when they was giving out the check. Of course he knows.
What did you say earlier? I'm offended by your claims? Come on. Quit being a clown.
Smiling and taking pictures, handing out checks.
Continue.
I mean, it's a real question.
So Mayor, you want me to address the deliverables that the youth rec presented, or would you like to?
No, you don't have to.
Or would you like? I'm sorry. We're gonna go through the chair. We're just gonna keep with the outbursts. I appreciate it. Mayor, I would actually ask that staff address the concerns that you're asking versus them coming through me. Mayor, or Mr. Evans.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
You're recognized.
To the mayor's question, I don't think there was any matrix or any program that was built out per se as a result of that. I think it was part of the conversation that staff did say, did we want to have a conversation with them or build out a program and the like. And the board decided to allocate the monies to youth recreation for the programming that youth recreation put forth. So there wasn't anything that the city was asking as a result of the contribution, to my knowledge.
Mr. Chair, and I think the first 150, and I know Councilman McCoy and myself, we agreed with it because we said the city, that's what the city kind of did. But the second 150, I thought we was going to put some parameters around it. So we just now saying we just, I don't have a dog in the fight whether it's youth recreation or whoever, but we should put some type of regulations around just giving another $150,000 out. Because, I didn't see us put regulations around a small amount of dollars. And so, I would like to have more discussion around this, that we just don't make this decision tonight. I mean, if you look at the first, it took months for them to get the first 150,000, right? So I don't see a little delay to give us more time to really talk about this and let this board come up with a action plan to see what we want to do. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. And to that point, this same board and my same colleague that mentioned me taking pictures that wanted to address that staff did not do what they were put out to do in regards to creating programs, putting deliverables in place, and providing youth rec with the funds, because that was what the contract stated. This contract has come back before us with just a blank line in there, and they're asking the council to just create a program or direction for staff to allocate the funds. As policymakers, I would prefer staff come to the board with a program or parameters in place. And the delay is not based upon this. The delay is based upon the READ program that, again, Councilman McCoy addressed because he was obviously confused by the emails he's been receiving versus the actual program that was created. So again, this is not me taking onus. This is on staff to provide opportunity to nonprofits and to getting the dollars for education out to our community. There should have been a program created originally with the first 150. There was not, but my same colleague was up here screaming, just give them the money. Now, all of a sudden, I guess because I was in the picture, he doesn't want to do that. So whatever the issue is or whatever the concern is, I'm not going to go back and forth, and I'm not going to continue to have these debates and discussions. There's a motion on the floor, and it was seconded. If we want to create a program, we can. We still have to have opportunity to have deliverables from this organization. So I'm not just saying give the funds to the organization without having deliverables, but let's allow for staff to go back and do that. So it's really that simple. Additional comments from the board?
Mr. Chair, you do have one public comment card. Artie Williams.
Good evening, everybody. Now, I'm not going to say a whole lot, but we went through this last time with the same conversation. We wouldn't be up here talking about this if Carpenter Lynn and our organization hadn't made it. They put us in there wasn't nobody else in the contract. It was said Youth Recreation Association. Now all of a sudden, because they awarded $150,000, because it was due to them. They didn't name no other organizations in the contract. Now this money, we're not sitting up here asking the city to give us anything. This is not the city's money. This was already something that you guys agreed on when y'all gave Copland the contract to build the fire stations. Now all of a sudden now it's going to be you take it in office, you redo it, and now you want to have some other things to say about it. That's not how it was. What was agreed upon on the floor should what still be presented and awarded. Don't come back and say Ms. McBride thought it would be something different. We could do something different with this, but that's not how it goes. That was not what's discussed. You can't point anybody else that named in that contract. Give me another name that was in the contract besides the Youth Recreation Association. So why are we discussing who the money goes to? It was blatantly put in the contract who it goes to. And for your information, if you want to know what was done with it, I actually invite every one of you guys to the events that we have. You don't show up. So for you to say you don't know what's going on, that's because you don't want to know what's going on, because I invite you every single time. We've given a number of churches $10,000 each in this community, and their pastors come and tell you that created a educational program for their churches. So don't say you don't know what's going on. Well, you want to find out what's going on, because if you did, you would go when we invite you to these places to be a part of it. So let's do what's right and quit acting like I'm asking for city funds. This is not coming out your budget. We're not sitting there asking one dime from the city. This is coming from a contract from Kaufman Land that was awarded by you guys. So let's do the right thing. We sit here trying to figure out what else we could do and what else. We wouldn't be having this conversation if youth recreation wasn't even involved in it. So while we're discussing some other READ program, that's you guys' business. That's not our business. We have never came in front of, out of 62 years that we've been helping this city out. But you never see me stand in front of you guys one time and ask you for a dime of money. I actually to collaborate on events, Thanksgiving, those type of things. But never ask for one dime from the city. Now, if somebody has awarded something to the youth recreation, you guys have now your pennies in a bunch. Do what's right. If it was awarded to them, give it to them. I don't care what organization it was. If it was that organization that was mentioned in the contract, do what's right. Don't try to change something behind doors and come back and bring it in front of the council and then want to vote on it and want to extend it. That's not what's the original deal. Do what's right.
Thank you for your comments. Additional comments from the board? You're recognized.
Thank you. So does administration of Mr. Bailey recall how much of the dollars for 87 came from the EOC grant we received from the state relative to this project?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
You're recognized.
The appropriation that the city received for Fire Station 87, the EOC was $1 million.
Okay. Okay.
Additional comments from the board? Ma'am?
Councilperson Lanier?
Hold on one second. There was a question from Ms. Miller Anderson. There was a motion seconded by Dr. Spiritus for the grant to go to Youth Rec as indicated in the comprehensive agreement. That's where I would recommend filling it in there. Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lanier?
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem McCoy?
No.
Councilperson Miller Anderson? Councilperson Spiritus?
Yes.
Chairperson Lawson?
Yes.
The item passes with Chair Pro Tem McCoy and Councilperson Miller Anderson dissenting.
Thank you. 11C.
Item 11C, resolution number 003-25, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, authorizing the city manager to issue a work order to All-Site Construction of West Palm Beach, Florida for owners representation services for Fire Station 86 in an amount not to exceed $1 million, authorizing the Director of Finance and Administrative Services to make payments for the same from project number 23083 and providing an effective date. Mr. Chair, we do have public comments on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards is now closed.
So moved.
Motion been made and properly seconded. Mr. Evans?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, if I can have the city engineer, Mr. Terrence Bailey, to make this presentation.
Good evening again, board. Terrence Bailey, city engineer. As provided in the backup, in 2021, the city issued a solicitation and it was awarded by resolution 17-21 to put owners' representatives on a continuing services list. In the 3 years we've been using these owners' representatives for construction projects as we move forward. Before you today are 2 items for the 2 current projects. The specific one in front of you is Fire Station 88. All-Site Construction, one of those vendors on the continuing services list, is currently providing services for the Fire Station 86, and we are here requesting authorization to issue a work order in an amount not to exceed $1 million for the services over the course of the next 3 to 3.5 years as the project moves forward. And with that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Mr. Chair.
You recognize.
Mr. Bailey, can you tell me how much PSA was paid for Station 88?
I don't have an exact number, but currently, PSA has been paid just inside of $1 million for both Fire Station 88 and 87 in combination.
Right,
I'd
my
have to,
understanding, they were paid $400,000 for each station. Is that correct? Or you don't know because you don't have the numbers with you?
I have the numbers, but they're not broken out station by station. The grand total that have been paid is just inside of $1 million.
That was for 2 firehouses, correct?
Yes, sir.
So why are we paying $1 million for 1 firehouse?
When looking at PSA's average expenditure, they were being paid about 24,000 and change per month over the last 40 months. Those projects, the 2 fire stations, ran about 24 months, which gets you approximately to that number. As I mentioned, the police station and the fire station are 36 to 42 month projects. So that $24,000 a month at 36 months gets you to 900,000. If the project runs to 42 months, which we are trying to accelerate, it would be $1.1 million. So that is why we've gone to a not to exceed of $1 million. Unfortunately, the project is a little nascent right now, and we're not able to narrow down whether that will take 33 months, 36 months, or 40 months. So that's why it is a not to exceed. But the cost for this project is on par with what PSA was paid on an average per month.
I'm a little confused. Why are we talking about 42 plus months to build a firehouse?
Well, again, this is for the entire project. Remember, there are about 4 or 5 phases. We've got to demo the existing firehouse, build the water tank and the pump house, then decommission the old and demo it, do the full switch over and commissioning, then build a fire station. So this is, and all of those have to happen in that sequence in those phases. So we're into the 36 to 42 month time window.
All right, I'm familiar with that. I'm familiar with construction. I still don't understand why it's 42 months. I think you have to rethink this, and you better go back and talk to the contractors, because that's not acceptable as far as I'm concerned. I think you better rethink this and go back and look at your numbers. We build freaking high-rise buildings in less time. They built the Empire State Building in 1 year. So if it's going to take us 3 years to build a firehouse, there's something wrong. I think we have to really think about the numbers. Maybe we ought to be paying based on a monthly basis, and I don't understand what the rush is right now. We're not starting this project right until the summer. Is that what you told me? We're going to start demolition in the summertime?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and procurement is putting together a new RFP right now pertaining to owner's reps. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
You recognize?
Yes, procurement is going to be working on a new public solicitation for owner's rep services.
Chair, if I may.
You recognize?
Yes, procurement will put together a solicitation for owner's rep, and we will go out in about 30 days,
And how much time are you going to give to respond to that?
approximately 30 days.
So we're talking about 2 months, 3 months?
I should come back before the board in 3 to 4 months because we have to evaluate and then we have to post it on the agenda.
So we're starting demolition when, Mr. Bailey?
I believe I think early summer, as I mentioned, June, July, maybe August at the worst. But please understand, as I mentioned before, we have to get to the GMP, and that's usually where most of the owner rep work on the front end is done. Vetting the GMP, I won't belabor it because you've been through this GMP conversation on many projects. So it would delay the project if we don't have an owner's rep to bring you a GMP so we can start the demolition.
I have no problem, but I have a problem with the number. I think we should be talking about a monthly fee because we don't know what the number is going to be. So to just throw $1 million in there doesn't make sense to me, especially when we spent $400,000 for a firehouse that's twice the size of this. Both those firehouses are twice the size of this firehouse. And for us to be spending double the amount of money, it doesn't make sense to me. I understand about the storage facility, the water tank, but that would make up for the difference in the size of the firehouse and the time it takes to build it and to end the project. I think you're probably going to be able to do it in the same time period. So I just have a problem with the number. I have no problem supporting 400,000, and then if there's any extras or something that comes along later on, we can revisit that at that point. We should put a time period to this with a certain amount of dollars per month. And then if there are extras or extra time periods, we can always approve the additional funds for that time.
Chair. Commissioner Spiritus, there was a guy sitting down there just on the previous item that actually voted for $150,000, but then you just came back and said, well, you don't know what the rush is. You gave so much, you gave no deference whatsoever to the fact that we were given $150,000 worth of taxpayer dollars, and clearly we have not one scintilla of what they've done. In fact, I know Youth Recreation Association donated money to other churches which paid down their mortgage, and not one dime went towards educational programs. And I just find it very interesting that the first thing you said was, what's the rush? Well, probably the same amount of rush it was when you guys just agreed to give somebody $150,000 with no measurables whatsoever. I mean, granted, do you know how many programs just within our city could have used that? But that's not this item. But, as far as I'm concerned, I had that same concern, Commissioner. And, I had to take the opportunity to get a shot at you because it just seems like we move in different directions when it's convenient. But, I have that same concern about how do you pay more than double? But one of the considerations, and I spoke to Mr. Evans today about this, was the fact that now we didn't contemplate for now the water plant as well. And obviously, I didn't even consider the fact that Mr. Bailey brought up this whole point of decommissioning and commissioning. Now, I certainly don't have a issue with trying to put together some sort of staggered plan, but we can't begin progress and then have this on pause while we're waiting to come back before an agenda item. Because, I want to be optimistic about 25 that we're not going to be meeting 3 and 4 times out of the month. But I would hope the very purpose of an owner's rep is to watch out for our interests.
Mr. Chair? Oh, I thought you were finished. I'm sorry.
But if he's charged with watching out for our interests on the construction project, I do think it's incumbent upon us to watch out for the owner's rep, because certainly we've seen how these kind of things just don't happen. So that's what I have in response.
Chair?
Spears.
Well, first, you went back to the $150,000. It's my personal opinion that because we went through the ITN and we followed that procedure, that I believe that we have to follow the contract that was there before. Otherwise, I believe we're violating the ITN, the intent of the ITN, and maybe even the legal process of the ITN. I have concerns about the ITN and the whole construction of Station 87, if you want to know the truth. And it's something that I will be investigating and I'm looking into right now, because I didn't see a resolution and I'm not so sure the ITN gave us the authority to do 87. I believe that the procedure that we followed when we gave the $150,000 to use services last time, there was a procedure that they had to follow. I would hope that staff is following up and making sure that they're following that procedure and the money is going where it is. If not, we should go and try and claw that money back. But I haven't heard from anyone until you just said just now that you're basically stating that those funds were not used properly and they were given to churches to bring down their mortgage. If that's the case, we should bring the state attorney in here because we didn't give them the money for that purpose. There was very specific guidelines that they had to follow for that. But going back to this, even owners reps, me personally, I believe we shouldn't be using certain firms or any firms as an owner's rep. We should be hiring another person to be a construction manager for the city on its projects and work for us full time, and we would get better representation and we would be covered. We'd know exactly what's going on if we hired people in-house to do that. Our staff doesn't have that now, but we should be looking to do that instead of hiring owners reps all the time. Every time we do a project, you could probably hire someone for $200,000 and get more than one project out of them. But
Sure.
we're here right now. I'm not finished yet. Thank you, Councilman. But as I said before, in order to expedite this, to not stop the project, I'm willing to go forward with this resolution. If the price comes down to that same price that we did for the other two firehouses, I would have no problem in supporting this.
Councilwoman Lanier, Councilman McCoy.
You were talking about the other owner's rep. What were you talking about in that case? You were saying that there was a RFP going out 30 days, 2 months, 3 months. What was that one? Was that something different?
Yes and no, Councilperson Lanier. We can put out an owner's rep, a new RFP for any project that's upcoming versus like an RFQ. So for each project, we can put out a new a new RFP. So it's project specific because there are different projects. And so part of some of the discussion this week was, can we or should we put out a new RFP?
Okay, no, I see what you're saying now. Now we have a item on the agenda, and I would like to move forward with what's on the agenda now. So I'm voting in favor of this so that we can move forward with the station on Singer Island.
Mr. Chair?
Hold on, Councilman McCoy, you recognize?
Thank you. So, if it's the ITN that we're required to follow, do we not have the same parameters in place for those people that actually submitted proposals, like the Mack and Son, the Reuter Company? Like, I mean, there's so much about this whole thing, and this is why I hate to get in these positions. And really and truly, if there was some sort of entitlement, Councilperson Spirit, is that Youth Recreation Association had to that monies, this isn't the venue to bring it up in front of the city council. The courthouse is down there on Quadrille and Dixie Avenue, but I just don't understand how this becomes our problem. So as far as I'm concerned, if we're going to move forward with this, I would hope that if the spirit of this whole conversation is to follow the ITN, there were several local contractors that were submitted a part of that ITN that are not here today, that never even got the opportunity. So they pulled a very conventional bait and switch, and all of the local people that they said that they were going to hire didn't happen. So, as far as I'm concerned, if you're going to follow it all the way through. But we shouldn't be the ones to sit here to decide. I mean, obviously, we need an owner's representative, and I don't want to sit here and delay this any further, especially considering, right, that the timetable has been laid out for us in terms of the phases that need to occur. And interestingly, right, I don't know how you arrived at 24 months, Mr. Bailey, but I can tell you the takedown and construction of that fire station was well over 2 years. And I'm speaking of 87. And even including the temporary station. So was that not encompassed in part of your timeline?
No, sir. The timeline that I'm outlining is based on the billing that came from PSA. When we received the first invoice until the invoice we received in December was 40 months. I apologize. You're talking about the construction. I didn't look it up exactly how many months, but it was approximately 2 years from the time that we demolished existing fire station 87 on the City Hall property until we're looking at a grand opening in February, in a few weeks. So it's approximately 24 months. It could be a month or two off, but I was generalizing in that general timeline of what those projects took to build from start to finish.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Recognize Dr. Spears.
Procurement, then Mr. Bailey. As you know, these are very old proposals that were given. What are they, 5 years old?
4.
4 years old. And I was impressed with All Sites' proposal. Have you checked to see if all the people that are in that proposal are still working with All Site and are still part of this project? I know that All Site is here. They might be able to answer that for us. I know you had met with Mr. Malloy or something. So, Mr. Chair, it's okay if Mr. Saffold speaks?
Ezra Saffold, All Site Construction.
To answer your question, 4 years ago, we've had turnover like every other organization. We do have a very capable team that includes engineers and a very capable staff that has worked on more than 10 other fire stations in the county, in Martin County, and other municipalities. We have the experience, we have the team, we've submitted on this solicitation, we won it fair and square. I'm really just throwing a blank the problem that we have here. You hired Kaufman Lynn, they gave you a schedule. My fixed rate is in line with every other representative, if not lower. And my time is just a fixed number, and the variable is the schedule that Kaufman Lynn provided. So when you say that, there's something not right about the schedule, well, Kaufman Lane, who you hired, is the one who gave the schedule. We're just representing you. I have a fixed number, not understanding what's wrong with our representation for Riviera Beach. I just know that we provide you a wonderful report there. We've done everything in your best interest. We went back to old fire station comments, review comments, made our suggestions. We work at the pleasure of the board here. I just want to say that when you hire All-Site, you're hiring local people that are on that team. At least 10 people on All-Site work and live in Riviera Beach. So you said that's what you want on many occasions. Our team lives here. I've heard you on some of the interviews. You asked it if there's a residential requirement. We have met every single one of your requirements. So I'm just not understanding why is this so hard. It's discouraging as a contractor because a lot of us submit on every single one of Riviera Beach's proposals. And you say you want to use local, you want to use higher and have more community engagement. We're doing it. We're doing it and we're exceeding it. So far as any turnover, just like any organization, we have turnover, but we get qualified people and we make sure that we satisfy our clients.
Chair?
You recognize?
Yeah, I can appreciate that, Mr. Saffold, everything you said, and I'm sure you have the capability, except that when we put in proposals to be approved by a municipality, you can't just arbitrarily change the team. It doesn't work that way, not when you deal with government. And you accept proposals, the people are the people. Is Cast Construction still part of this proposal?
We have projects. They consult with us on various things. We are still partners on other fire stations. So there is that connectivity.
Well, that Mr., what was it, Demoy, is he still going to be on this project?
Mr. DeMay did retire.
DeMay. He
He did-
retired.
he
so he's not-
retired.
So who will be taking his place from Cast, who's an engineer?
They have multiple people. We have relationship with, we were number 2 on submitting on this project. Some of those same people are resources and connected to this endeavor.
Okay, thank you.
Some comments from the board? Madam Clerk?
Councilperson,
Sorry, you recognize?
oh, I'm sorry, public comment, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Before the public comment comes up, Dr. Spirit has had a comment?
First person to speak will be Mrs. Mary Bram, followed by Margaret Shepherd, and then Fane Lozman.
And before we go into public comment, Dr. Spirit has shared a comment?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we authorize, that we change this from $1 million to $400,000, and that we charge a monthly fee for any extended time.
Miss Mary Brown, Riviera Beach.
Hold on, Ms. Brown.
You know,
Ms. Brown,
Brown, wait one
before you
second,
go
please.
in, we're still having discussion. Give us one moment.
huh?
One moment, please.
Okay.
For announcements yet.
Huh?
Go ahead. Dr. Spirit put a motion on the floor. He wanted to amend the resolution.
Yeah, but it's not proper. So I would object. I mean, if we're already in the midst of hearing public comments, I mean, we can certainly hear that after we finish, right?
Before the public comment started, I allowed for Dr. Spiritus to speak. He made a motion. If there is a motion on the floor, I'll hear the motion before we start with public comment. So if you give us a moment, Ms. Mary Bram. Dr. Spiritus put a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
What's the
If you
motion?
could restate the motion, Dr. Spiritus.
I make a motion that we amend the resolution to be $400,000 rather than $1 million. And then we charge we can add additional fee if it goes over a 36-month period.
Okay, so number one, I don't think you can do that.
Well, can you explain to me, can you show me the statute or the law that says I can't do that? I believe I can make a motion on anything.
Well, Chair, you're seemingly going to unilaterally change the terms of a contract after
There is no contract.
I'm sorry. I think there is a contract. There is a
We're here
continuing.
tonight to authorize a contract.
So that's exactly what I believe we have here. Did you not get it?
It's not executed, so it's no contract. It's a proposed agreement.
Right, but the continuing services contract did set forth rates. So you're saying that you want to amend this time schedule of the construction in the event that it exceeds this time period, then it comes back to us?
We can use the exact same number that Mr. Bailey said that PSA used, which you said, what, was $25,000 a month?
Yes. And Councilman, if I may, your 36 months times $25,000 a month is $900,000. So just wanted, you understand your math.
Well, it should be 2 years. The project should be 24 months.
It's going to take almost 12 months just to build the water tower.
Didn't PSA work prior to the construction period?
Yes,
Just
sir.
like you want to do now? So how could it have been only 24 months? Had to be more than 24 months.
No, I believe the actual physical construction time was only about 15 or 16 months. The design time was the rest of that 24-month window.
So the entire project, so this should be the same?
And it is, the 36 months I'm referring to does cover the design time as well.
Hey, but
for Fire Station 86.
You're right, but we don't need the owner's rep until right now. I mean, the owner's rep really isn't an engineer right now. You know that. You know the owner's rep is going to be watching us during the construction. This is not PSA, which is a real engineering firm.
Chair,
You recognize?
if we're going to reduce the amount, which I don't really think that we can do, we need to just put this back out. I mean, you said that it would take 30 days to do that, bring it back. I mean, why would we change the contract in the middle of a council meeting? I don't think that we can do that. I think that if you're going to look at the cost, and then you talked about the cost that was a part of the RFP, right? It was in there when they responded. Am I correct?
If I may, Chair, the hourly rate or the rate of the individuals was in the original, RFP, but not the price, like the total project price. So that number could vary, and it would be like that for a new agreement as well. A new agreement, someone may come in and all the rates are double, and yet they qualify, and so the proposal of $1 million could be $2. I'm just saying, facetiously, but not facetiously, but just to estimate. So we have the current price now of all site and in the next, resolution. And so we just arrived at the number looking at the averages that PSA have been charging us for the last couple of projects. It doesn't mean that we will reach $1 million. It could be less. But we were just asking based upon kind of what the average was and what they were presenting as far as invoicing.
Mr. Chair?
Recognize?
So when we put out the RFP for an owner's rep, we didn't put a specific number? There was no number, no nothing attached to it?
The
What the
RFP
fees
for,
were gonna be?
the RFP for owner's rep was qualifications-based solicitation.
It's an RFQ.
So it was RFQ. So we put the 6 vendors on that were qualified. And then as we moved into contract, we got the terms and conditions of the contract. And each of those contracts has a list of personnel, a senior construction inspector, your project manager, your owner, and there's about 10 or 15 positions. And the rate in those positions per hour is fixed in the contract. What then happens, and what we've been doing and is in your backup, you turn that rate per employee times the scope of how many people, how many hours, how many weeks, how many months, and that is what turns into the cost per month times the number of months of the projected project, and that's how you end up with what is a very similar cost per month. If the scope is similar project to project, the people and the hours and the cost per hour is also similar, and that's how we arrive generally at that $25,000 a month, plus or minus, and then you just prorate. Is it a simple project at 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, or 40 months, and how we get to a total dollar number, but it's sort of built off of the base contract and the dollars per hour per staff member that they're bringing to the team, and to the engagement.
So the 87 and 88 were 24 months total with the design?
Approximately, yes.
Okay, so, and that was 400,000.
The construction was 400,000. The design, I believe, was another 70 to 90,000. So that's how, with the 2 projects, they're just inside of $1 million, design and construction for both.
So $500,000 a project with the design had to be more than 24 months.
Well, again, during the design phase, they actually are billing approximately 12 to 15,000, but during construction, it's 30,000. So depending on that variable, that's why it rolls it as an average of about 24.
Yeah, but it was probably more than 24 months if you were including design, right?
No, sir, that 24 months is approximately start to finish, the beginning of design to the end of construction. And again, it's approximate. It could have been 26 or so, or it could have been 23.
So
I'd have to go back and.
So your design took what, 6 months?
Approximately, especially on Fire Station 87, when it was a lot of repeat of Fire Station 88, we had lessons learned.
Okay, I still think that it should be $400,000 based on 24 months, and then if there's additional time period, we can get charged on a monthly basis. Because right now, what happens if the project is done in 24 months? We pay $1 million?
No, sir, they do a monthly bill with the time actually spent. So at $25,000 a month for 24 months, that maps out to about 500,000. So we would only pay for the months that they use if the schedule compresses. That's why this is a not to exceed.
Okay, so then the resolution should have a monthly fee and then not to exceed.
Well, the struggle with the monthly fee is, again, it will change
Yeah, I know it's
slightly.
going to change during the design to the construction. I understand that, but you probably should have brought that to us with a design monthly fee and with a construction monthly fee.
Chair, if I may. So it's kind of hard then with the monthly fee. You have like the holiday time. Everyone may not work, and so it's a little less. And yet there's some phases of a project where you may have more bodies there in that particular phase of a project. And so your invoice may be a little higher. And so I would ask that we not set necessarily a monthly, because we just don't know until we actually receive the invoice with all of the supporting documentation. So if we take a glance at some of the past invoices, one month's 23, 1 month's 24, 1 month's 27, another one's 28, 1 month, 2 months were 7, so one was 16. So it depends on the work and the work at that particular time. I mean, if there's a tornado that comes in, or, a hurricane, if they can't do work, if they, there's just all types of variables. And so that is also why you have the pricing in the original agreement. And another thing is, this month you may need, a certain set of skills, and the next month you need a different set of skills. And so just to not to exceed is just to say, hey, we have the cushion. That doesn't mean the project will be $1 million, but then, we may be back, asking, for more, which you know, that is, if that's the will of the council, but it was just $1 million, to allow for the work to continue on and down the line for a year or 2 or 3, but it could be less.
Mr. Chair?
You recognize?
Yeah, I just don't understand. You just can't convince me that this should be costing more than Station 88 and 87. It just doesn't make sense to me. The scope of work is about the same. If you take the size of the building itself and you take the storage, water storage tank, it's about the same. It should be 500,000 is just my opinion. I'm only one vote here, but that's my professional opinion. I understand everything you're saying. I'm in this business. I've been in this business for a long, long time, probably longer than you've been around. But I'm just trying to make sure that we don't overpay on this. I'm sure I have no problem with All Site doing the job. I just want to make sure that we're paying the right fee on this. And I think you should. I know that all these right now, I don't even know if it's legal for us when, you receive proposals and we accept these proposals from these firms. This should have never lasted. No, but none of these RFPs should have lasted more than a year and a half, 2 years. They should have gone out again. Because as you know, organizations do change, as Mr. Southwold said, like all organizations do. People move from one place to another. You have to make sure that you're getting what the original RFP. Otherwise, there's no point in having an RFP or an RFQ. There's no point. This is going to be done on a regular basis because there's no way to even follow through. I mean, I'm sure that you did not get a list of all the engineers ahead of time, and it's just a new ball game. You're starting all over. It's not fair to everybody. That's the whole idea of procurement and having RFQs, that it's a level playing field for everybody. This is not a level playing field anymore. This is different. You're just picking somebody out of the hat because they were on the list. You want to expedite it? Fine. Council says it's okay. I have no problem going along with this. I just want to make sure we're paying the right price.
Mr. Chair,
You recognize?
is this something that would come to us, like on the agendas once a month, or is this something that once we approve it now, we don't see it anymore? Like when we see invoices on a monthly basis and, like the CRA, will this be something that comes back to us or no?
As part of the scope, they have to provide a monthly report, as PSA does now. And I believe that report is distributed, but as for confirmation of the invoices, I don't believe that's a city process that we currently do, but I would yield to the manager on if that is a process we have in place.
Mr. Chair, if I may, if it's the board's pleasure, we can furnish those monthly reports that are provided by the owner's rep so you can actually see the progress of the project. So that's something that we can do, and actually even make it available on the city's website so the public can see the progress of these projects and what the reports that the owner's reps are putting forward.
Yeah, I mean, I would be in favor of that because that, at least that would keep you in the know in terms of if you're concerned, you can kind of see how it's progressing. That's just a thought. That's something I would like to see.
Mr. Chair. Right, but Councilwoman, we would not be approving those invoices. They would be automatic. All we're going to do is see how much is being spent, but it's not coming back to us for approval. So it really doesn't make a difference at that point. The horse is out of the barn once we approve this.
So there's been discussion of reducing the amount. There's been discussion of putting it back out. Dr. Spiritus, you made a motion. Is there a second on Dr. Spiritus' motion? Motion dies for lack of second. Madam Clerk, if we could do public comment, please.
Excuse me. The first speaker is Mrs. Mary Bram, followed by Margaret Shepherd and Faye Mosman.
Miss Mary Bram, Riviera Beach. You know, this is almost like a joke show. Some of you sat here tonight at a blank check. You gave a blank check without any accountability. No long drawn out questions. Artie got up here and he nailed you to the cross. And you caved in. You did. Some of you all caved in. This is the same thing that I stood here and said about other programs in this city. And we gonna nail you to the cross too. We gonna do the same thing. Because see, when you sit here in the general public, everybody, over close to 7,000 people, you all hear Miss Bram here tonight, to see this show here that went on. Isn't it fair to give others a chance too? I agree. If you want to know how the scope of work is going, then monthly invoicing, and you will see here who did this and who did that. That's called transparency. What transparency did we have tonight? None. For giving $150,000. That was not even in the contract. But you sat here tonight and said, oh, it's okay. It's okay. See, that's why investigations need to happen. Because all of this buddy stuff. I told you 25 is going to be different with you. All of this buddy stuff here. All of this buddy stuff here. Now you can bank on that one. 25 will be different. Because the city has to do things orderly, right, and treat others fairly as you want to be treated with your buddy pal system. And you sat here tonight and you did it. You did it. You did it. And all state there. All state there. He said that he'll have workers and stuff too. If you're not satisfied with them, that's why you can get transparency. Transparency. $150 blank check. A blank check. And he told you just what he wanted to tell you. Oh yeah, some changes has to be made here. Because this is not right. This is definitely not right. And I want every word I said in the record here. Money, you throw money like it's darn running water. What accountability that you had for the $150,000? None. Absolutely none. Thank you.
Margaret Shepherd.
Thank you, Ms. Shepherd.
Ms. Shepherd has passed, and the last speaker will be Fane Mosman.
Thane Lozman, Joel Englehart wrote a story about the firehouse at our property. Mr. Spiritus, you're kind of putting the cart in front of the horse. The litigation over who owns the firehouse and water plant is going to take a lot of time and cost an awful lot of money. You're not going to be doing that tomorrow or a month from now or 6 months from now. It could be a year from now. Who knows how long it's going to take. We have a survey from the city that shows our property has moved east to the firehouse. Now, that's not the city attorney's fault. She had nothing to do with that. That was your litigation team in the federal taking case. The federal judge refused to move the section corner. So instead, a guy on Pine Point Road that has a dock on a little sliver of land he illegally sliced off from a neighbor, he went to court with the city survey and said, hey, I got to move the section corner because my dock goes across our property. And the judge didn't like my lawyer's attitude, and he moved the section corner that's been there since 1915. Your predecessors in the 1960s signed a bulkhead line, signed the city boundary. Right now, according to that judge, the city boundary's moved 65 feet to the east. The municipal boundary has moved east. Just like we're on the other side of the road, the western boundary's moved east. You cannot change the size of what was sold in 1924. You can relocate it, okay? So basically, I think you have a malpractice case against the surveyor because you can't move something. The state, the city, and county have agreed since the early 1900s. Here's where the corner is, and now 110 years later, it's been moved. Now, I know Mr. Spiritus knows about it. I know the city attorney, and it's kind of like, what do we do? You know, we didn't create this mess. We inherited this mess from Lewis, Longman, and Walker, and now from the Kant guy. Now, you have a development director there who knows that this dock is illegal because the properties on was never platted. So it's been issued building permits for an unplatted property. It's a non-conforming structure. The city manager could go to the chief building official and say, is it true it's a non-conforming structure? Have it,
Mr. Fain,
let me finish. Have the dock ripped down and then we were,
germane to the item, we're talking about the
right,
owner's
I'm
rep.
trying to explain how you can solve this problem. Right now, Halo Development owns that firehouse and water plant. Whether you
Thank
believe
you.
it or not, there's a survey from the city that said it's in our property. I'm saying if you get rid of that dock, this non-conforming structure, he's the guy that insisted the court move the boundary for everybody. If you get rid of that dock, because it's on an unplatted lot, it's a non-conforming structure, we can go to the appellate court and say, hey, the guy that asked to be moved, he has no standing anymore because there's no more dock. Let's go back to the old section corner and solve it. If you don't do that, you're looking at a multi-year battle over, you can't shrink our property. The state sold 307 acres. You're going to have to do something about it, and you'll get a notice of eviction next week for the firehouse.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, this ends the public comment.
Thank you. Discussion from the board?
So where are we with this? Are we proceeding with the items on the agenda? There wasn't a second for his motion, so are we proceeding with this as is?
There was no second on the item, so that's the only resolution on the floor. Additional comments?
Chair, maybe I need some clarification, but I thought when the clerk read the title, there was a motion and a second, but then Dr. Spiritus attempted to change it. When he attempted to change it and that failed, for lack of a second, you had the original motion still on the floor.
Yeah. No,
Okay,
no
I thought you
confusion.
were saying that there was no
Miss-
motion and you were moving on to the next
Ms.
item.
Lanier,
I'm
just wanted to
sorry.
be clear that
Okay.
that nothing happened, that nothing else is being done, and we're gonna go ahead and, okay. Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lanier,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem McCoy,
Yes.
Councilperson Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Councilperson Spiritus,
Yes.
Chairperson Lawson.
Yes.
That's a unanimous vote on that item.
Thank you. 11D?
Item 11D, resolution number 004-25, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, authorizing the city manager to issue a work order to Goddard Associates of Hollywood, Florida, for owner's representation services for Riviera Beach Police Headquarters in an amount not to exceed $1 million, authorizing the Director of Finance and Administrative Services to make payments for the same from project number 23076 and providing an effective date. Mr. Chair, we do have one public comment card on this item. The acceptance of the cards is now closed.
So
Second.
Mr. Evans?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I'll ask for the city engineer, Mr. Terrence Bailey, to make this presentation.
Good evening, council. Again, for the sake of time, this is a similar situation to the previous item, assignment of a work order for the owner's rep for the police station headquarters. And with that, we'll take any questions.
Mr. Chair,
Recognize.
I have the same comments pertaining to the owner's rep on the police headquarters as well. I believe that these are stale proposals that have been submitted to the city, and it's very, very important that procurement get the new RFQ out and get new people. I don't know if these are the same people that submitted a proposal, the same team that submitted the proposal. I question whether it is or it is not. I don't know. That's something that probably you should have come here with that information to be able to tell us directly whether they are the same people or not that responded to the RFQ originally. But I have the same concerns money-wise, and I have the same concern with the team.
Additional comments? Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment cards?
We have one public comment card, Erica
Thank
Davis. Yes.
Welcome, Ms. Davis.
Erica Davis, Riviera Beach. Mr. McCoy made a great point about the $150,000. And when it comes to procurement, Mr.
Jermaine.
Spiritus made a good point. It's like, what is the standard here of how you hire an owner's rep? Because it's a different rep for each project. And then everybody has their different price. I thought that when you have a developer, they have their own project manager, which is like an owner's rep, if I'm not mistaken, right? So why do we have to approve the owner's rep when it should be included in the developer's contract? That's like paying extra money, right? Am I wrong, Mr. Spiritus?
No, you're probably right.
Okay, because it doesn't make any sense to have all of these hiring our separate owners reps when the developers should be able to hire their own project manager and have a scheduling of the monies and everything, and you guys get an update monthly, weekly, or however you need to do it to make it easier. When it comes to this procurement, it's always complicated. It doesn't make any sense. You waste money. You got to be structured here. You got to have some structure and some rules and regulations of how you're going to run this procurement department. Because when it comes to these projects and you come up here, when they come up here, there's always a problem. Always. And Charger, he upsets me, but he has a lot of good points when it comes to that money. So you guys need to decide if you're going to, like Mr. Spirit say, hire an in-house, or you're going to allow the developer to have their own included in the contract, so we don't have to pay extra money for that. It makes more business sense, once again. Business sense. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Chair.
Question, go ahead, Ms. Leonard.
So how was this particular outfit chosen? It was the same way with the pool?
Yes, ma'am.
And these are a pool of people that have, how long have they been in this pool? Is it something that was last year, this year, 2 years ago?
If I may, Chair, the resolution to approve the pool was awarded February 2021. The initial contract was 3 years with 2 one-year options to renew.
Mr. Chair.
Hold on, Dr. Spiritus. Thank you. Go ahead, Dr. Spiritus.
So on the extension, we're 1 year into the extension, is that correct?
That is correct.
Hopefully there won't be any more extensions. Thank you.
Ms. Ammons or Mr. Bailey, if you could just give a brief explanation of the owner's rep, because I believe there's some confusion from the community in regards to the scope of owner's rep. Just very brief, explaining what the owner's rep is supposed to do.
At its core, the owner's rep is simply staff augmentation. You can imagine for projects of this scale and complexity, we don't currently have the staff to do everything ourselves. So the owner's rep brings additional resources to bear. Sometimes it's man hours and sometimes it's skill set. You've heard a lot of discussion here about what is the proper mix of skill sets. You need people who really know how to read construction plans, individuals who know the permitting process, environmental, construction elements, and things like that. We would not be able to have a staff complement large enough to span all of those different needed skills over that time. And then as well, we will eventually end this construction boom that we're in sooner rather than later. We would have a staff of individuals with nothing to do if we brought them in-house with all those skills. So the owner's rep provides you a beautiful blend of staff augmentation, a variety of skills, and that oversee and help the project progress forward. Again, we pay the contractor to do the design and do the construction, but somebody still has to watch them. So it is to that point, the obligation of staff and the staff augmentation team to check all the check boxes, make sure everything is done, and when we do make payment, that it is in line with the contract and all the other terms and conditions of the contract are adhered to. So you can imagine myself and Mr. Finney, as the two individuals charged with that, would not have the resource to manage all of these projects as well as the other assignments that we have. So the owner's rep is here fundamentally as staff augmentation to bring man hours and skills to the table to facilitate the capital program for the city.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
You're recognized.
So, Mr. Bailey, you said that they have to have an understanding or I don't know what the role that they're going to play in the permitting process. Isn't that the job of the contractor to have a team on his construction team that is familiar with the permitting process and going through the permitting process?
Yes, sir. That was one of many examples of the potential spread of scopes on, like, understand, we have a large typology of projects. There are a number of different type projects. And so this owner's rep may be working on a smaller project with a smaller contractor that may not have that sort of expertise, especially if we were doing, say, a hard bid. So we've currently been discussing large projects with design build and large companies, but this staff augmentation use could also be for smaller projects where they may need a little more assistance, in that vein. But we haven't had that case yet. I just sort of gave you a really broad explanation of the potential uses and skills that could come to the table from the owner's rep.
Sure.
Thank you. You're recognized.
Well, in all due respect, on a small project, if we can't do it staff-wise, then we are not doing things correctly. If we have to hire an owner's rep on a small project, then there's something wrong.
Additional comments? You're recognized.
About the owner's rep pool, how does that work? This was in 2021, so when do you go and do it again in terms of owner's reps for projects that the city has? Do we stick with that same pool from now on, or do we go back out? How do we do that?
We would go back out, and that is generally in public procurement. We try not to have contracts longer than 5 years. This one was an original term of 3 with 2 one-year contract renewals, and then we would go out. We can go out at any time, and so we're not, we don't have to stick with it for the period of time. We can go out and solicit at any time.
Okay, I think that the city needs to look at that, going back out again for new blood in this pool of owners reps, because we have, I don't know if these Gaudet associates are from Riviera Beach, but I don't think so. There are Riviera Beach individuals and contractors here that could benefit from these owners pools. So I think that 3 years is enough for us to revisit looking at opening this pool back up.
Additional comments? Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lanier,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem McCoy, Councilperson Miller Anderson, Councilperson Spiritus, Chairperson Lawson, unanimous vote.
Microphone keeps going out. Walter, the discussion item that we have on here, I believe, was one that you brought to the board. Is this an item that you'd like to discuss tonight, or as a board, would we be able to maybe bring this at the next meeting? That is the civics open space.
Well, I would like the council to read this, and maybe we can get it on for approval at the next meeting.
Is it okay if staff brings us back at the next meeting, and if the board is okay with that? You're recognized.
If it's the board's pleasure, we can get this item back on the agenda, but we need clarity if the board wants us to bring it forward as a ordinance for the purposes of taking official action on the item. Because originally it was an item for discussion and then to seek direction from the board. But if we do bring it back, and if it's the board's desire, it would be in the form of an ordinance, or it could be a discussion item, however the board wishes to proceed.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
I think we already discussed this, and we asked the staff to put together the resolution. We discussed this at one of the meetings, and we asked you to put together a resolution pertaining to our discussion. So that's why we're here today. I thought we were actually going to approve it tonight, but if we're not, if it was only on for discussion, then I'd like to see it on for approval at the next board meeting to have the first reading. It'll be a first reading, right, of changing the ordinance?
It's not. So
You recognize.
if I'm not mistaken, right, I remember I tried to do this some time ago relative to MEHOP, and boy, did I get some resistance about the process on how a council member chooses to bring forth an ordinance. So until this is getting direction from the board and we flush this out, how can one person just bring forth an ordinance and say, put it on for first reading at the next council meeting? I mean, did something change?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
You recognize.
No, that's why this very item was on the board for discussion for the purposes of getting
Well, we
clarity.
can discuss it next time, because certainly when I tried to bring that up, you guys roundtabled me and told me why it wouldn't work, that it has to be a consent. And that's, you know what? I respect what he wants to do, but that's the way I thought the process is. When you're elected to represent a certain area, you should be able to introduce ordinances to the board. And I'm not, trying to target you, Commissioner Spiritus, but I tried to do the same thing. And they told me, well, we can't bring anything unless the board gives us direction. So what's the very purpose of us being able to be local lawmakers?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'm not sure if you were here, Commissioner McCoy, when we had this discussion. The board did discuss this, and we did give direction to staff to move forward on this item. We had a discussion on this at one of our meetings. Yeah, it was a quick discussion. We talked. It was a pretty simple thing. We're just saying we wanted the option to give
Bring
the
it back for a
developers.
discussion.
Yeah.
I believe, if I recall,
Okay. Well, then I would like to have the discussion tonight. I think it's a pretty
well,
important
you can
item.
go for that. I'm gonna tell you, I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you that I'm not gonna be able to stay much longer. In fact, I already got one foot out the door, and I've heard enough church announcements tonight. So, and I mean respectfully, just the hour, and considering I have a 9 o'clock, and I think you're on TPA in the morning.
We have to be at the airport at 9 o'clock in the morning.
TPA.
TPA meeting is at the airport
Okay.
tomorrow morning.
Yeah, and I'm at the school district in the morning. So, well, this is an extension of our duties on committees. So I don't have anything else. So can we table this discussion, Chair?
Pleasure of the board. Councilman McCoy, Ms. Miller Anderson. Yeah, if we can bring this back at the next meeting for discussion. Comments, Executive Director?
Barry used to have that position.
I'm sorry?
City manager.
City manager, that's right.
Just a couple of quick items with regards to what Mr. Mahoney said concerning the no parking signs. We'll have staff look and have that conversations with the property owners. The items concerning the wells and the cost for the water treatment plant, we do have some subsequent meetings that are going to be occurring this week, and we'll break down the entire cost, but that is the cost that were shared tonight is all inclusive with wells and transmission lines and the connections of some of the new wells. We will facilitate, once we get more refined numbers, we will facilitate some more community discussions concerning the rate increase in the water treatment plant. And then that I think is it with regards to citizen comments, and certainly encouraging people to come out to the parade this weekend on Saturday. There's a lot of festivities that are planned, and certainly we hope to see you out there for the event this weekend. And that concludes my comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, City Attorney.
No comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman McCoy?
Yes. So since the mayor isn't here and then you skipped me on the UD comments, I'm going to spend about 10 minutes in saying what I want to say. Mr. Evans, I would like for the board to have, well, I guess the board members, have the conversation regarding this provision that we have from 1956 in our code concerning the removal of the ability to require a supermajority for a land use zoning, I'm sorry, for a zoning change, that be brought by way of ordinance back to the board, because that has tend to be a barrier for a lot of developers. And to my surprise, members, I just found out this week that we no longer can expect, and it may be a good thing for some of us, the car wash that was on Blue Heron scheduled across from JFK decided that our administrative permitting process takes too long, so they up and put the property under contract with someone else. And I think if we don't resolve some of the issues in development services, then we're going to continue to have folks that comes to the city, submits applications, spend a couple $100,000 in the process, and just administratively in site plans, and then decide they don't want to do business. So I think we got to make it a little more friendly and bring our code up to date. So I would ask for indulgence on bringing that one provision relative to protest and zoning changes to the board for us to consider removing that, since there's no other city in Palm Beach County that has that provision in our code. So certainly in the same fashion that Board Member Spirit has asked for staff to bring this, I would like to see if we can have a discussion regarding that. And I see our friend from Development Services has left already, but Mr. Evans, that is my desire.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Thank you. You recognize?
Can I get direction from the board to add that, I'm assuming at your next meeting as well for discussion purposes?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. Additional comments, Councilman McCoy?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Miller Anderson? Dr. Spritters?
Yeah, I have something. I would like another thing brought to the council for discussion, Mr. Evans. I have a problem with the zoning in the ICPUD district on Singer Island. We do not have a comprehensive plan update. I would like to see a moratorium on that zoning district on Singer Island until the comp plan can review the zoning in that area and make sure that we're consistent and the city has the services and the ability to handle that type of zoning in the area.
Mr. Chair, if I may, same question to the board. And does the board want to see that item as well added on to the agenda for discussion purposes?
On the ICPUD, that's 25-story development in the CRA area on Singer Island. That's where the stores are. You have a group of stores on Blue Heron. North Ocean turns into Blue Heron, and the back of the Ocean Mall, and also the foot of the bridge. We have a vacant lot there as well. Right now, you can build, I believe, as of right, 8 stories, which is fine with me. We have 20 some odd stories on the rest of the island. We're almost developed out now. We have about maybe 2 lots that could be developed on the ocean. But I'm talking about the ICPUD area.
That discussion is fine.
Additional comments, Dr. Spritters?
On January 27th, there's going to be a town hall meeting here to discuss the upgrade of the Ocean Beach Park area across from the Johnny Longboats to the end there where 7-Eleven is. So hopefully everyone will come and attend, and we'd like to hear everybody's input on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Lanier? Thank you. No further business. Meeting is adjourned.